Hello folks, based on what I saw on LinkedIn, I thought I'd make a quick video and or a series of videos and start with this one to show basic reporting in CSV. This is actually program 4400, which is sales analysis, the most common sales reporting tool that our customers use, but it is very similar to all the other analysis programs in CSV. And once you start that program, you can enter like a free number, something that hasn't been used yet. And as you enter that number, you can give it a report, and I call it here my year-to-date report. And go ahead and set it up and say I would like to look at my customer data. I mean, this is actually default pretty much for all of you folks. Rarely you use subsidiary data. It's an exception, and you almost always use column-oriented reports. The system always attaches directly like layouts. It attaches a screen layout for the header information. It attaches a screen layout for the BIS, and it attaches a print layout for like paper output. At the bottom of the screen you see like all the mandatory buttons that you need to fill out. Selection criteria are not really mandatory. They are entirely optional, but recommended if you want to limit the data that you would like to look at. So you got to set up at least the other four that you see here, and the final button here actually shows that you can launch the report. So one by one we go through them. The first one is actually settings. Just actually confirm the defaults. Say normal evaluation here. Say from statistics, this is actually about the pricing. So each evaluation or analysis programs has certain settings that decide and regulate where information is pulled. In this instance, it is about the cost of the items, whether that is actually pulled from the statistics file or the current costs from the item master should be taken when the report is printed. But that is pretty much it. You must set up, in any case, a period. That is actually mandatory. And normally you should set up periods as relative date. And the system provides here functions that allow you to regulate and determine the selections of the date intervals automatically via the system date. So in this instance, we would like to calculate a year-to-date report. So I would like to select the data, of course, of the beginning, from the beginning of this year to the current date. And I do that by saying I would like to calculate the beginning of an interval. And by doing that, I then need to select the beginning of what type of interval I would like to look at. And when I say like 0 here, for example, it takes the current interval, current year, beginning, so start of the current year. So if I would, for example, here say like -1, it would actually go like 1 year back and I would get the previous year. So in this instance, I would like to use current year, hit OK, and my to selection should be relative date. Just basically the day, so it takes a current system date. So as I confirm that, system takes the current system date, relative date. So whenever I run now that report, it actually selects all the information from the beginning of this year to the current system date when the report is run. So this is the most simple way to set up a year-to-date report with a period selection. And as I said, you need to have at least one period selection as part of your report. You could have more. The next piece is sort criteria. You must have at least one sort criteria in the system. So in this instance, for example, I would like to select, let's say, customer, and would like to see a customer, and then within that customer, let's say, I would like to see product category or product subcategory, something like that. So I scroll down and pick that corresponding product subcategory, then item to drill to the item next. And let's say just finally below that, I just take the day or day in the month, or whatever, like a month, let's say, to see in which month the sales was. So these sort criteria basically say group by. So when I run this year-to-date report, I see year-to-date total by customer first. When I drill then into the customer, I see within the customer which product subcategory year-to-date totals, and then within that item number, and within that by month. So this is actually very simple as a sort criteria. So with that being set up, I have the group selections. I have like a date selection, the date range I would like to see at. Like I said, I could use now selections to limit more. If I would like to look at a certain product range or would like to see at a certain customer range, I can further shrink now the data that the system would look at. But what I must do before I can run that report, I need to actually pick the variables that I would like to run. And in this instance, let's say very simple, I would like to run a quantity pounds report. So I would like to see my pounds. I pick here delivery quantity and price units. That is in most instances of our customers, it is actually the pounds. And I just confirm the other fields here and put in the second column of my report, put revenue. And the revenue is a value, and there are like multiple different values, and by default you probably want to look at this value number 7, which is, you know, taking all discounts into account and is essentially like a net sales after invoicing. So I actually pick that one, and let's say I call that net dollars. So very simple setup. So I have now some content that I would like to look at. So my basic report is done. I save that so that I can recall that report and have it here in my list. Now I hit start and can run that evaluation. So that evaluation, like we said, has 2 reports attached. It has on my screen a screen layout attached. It has an output attached. That screen layout here basically means I can hit Shift F9 and I see that report here right away and can see the data that I just have populated that report with, and can drill through the individual information that I have and hereby the individual date ranges that I have selected, and can drill through those data. Yeah, so I have the full ability and full access to my information as I actually decided. That is, of course, the screen layout. And if I go out, the print layout in this case was directed to the spool file. So I can actually drill in here, say, look at that report, my year-to-date report. Let me sort that here by time quickly so that I can pick my year-to-date report that I lastly run. And I see here my report as a print layout. So, you know, whatever that looks like, you know, it can be cosmetically enhanced using GPMI to make it nicer. But I got my basic numbers out that I want in a print and on the screen. So next thing that I want to do is show you a little bit more about the column manager. I go back here into my 4400 and call up my year-to-date report, and you know, we have placed here variables on my layout that are just contained or defined by CSB, so they are in that catalog, you know, in that functional catalog that I picked from. But I can also create my own little formulas in here. So in case, let's say, I would like to calculate the average price between of these in that report, I can just skip that field and can edit in this field the function myself, and can say take column 2 divided by column 1, yeah, which would be my average price. Yes. And now what I need to do is, in this instance, I must activate that this formula is calculated also on the subtotal level. So in some instances, you want to turn that off. I mean, by default, I would always turn it all on. It is most likely right. But in some instances where you, for example, calculate on the most detailed level, like differences, absolute values, you want to gross them up and total them up, and then you would turn that off. So this basically says that this formula should be calculated on each individual level in my sort. And, you know, it is rarely wrong to set that up. Yeah. So I have added here a formula, and in this instance, I can just go ahead and, you know, again, save that report and Start that report again. And look at the result. Here it is. I have my average price in my report. Very simple, very easy. This is actually how you would actually set up a very simple report in CSB. Now we could actually kick that up a notch. Let's say in this instance we would like to now compare that year-to-date report to the previous year. I mean, that is actually a standard scenario that most of you guys have, and so that is now my year-to-date comparison. Previous year-to-date. Right? So if I want to do that and enhance that report now and kick it up a notch, what I would need to do is actually add another period in here. So I would just go ahead and say I would like to have a second period in here and say, again, interval start. In this case, I would like to have year. Year minus 1 would actually mean go back to the previous year. It calculates the previous year. And relative date again. But in this instance, I would go back 1 year. So I would say relative date, but go back 1 year. So now I have actually a selection criteria set up and the second period that I would like to look at of the previous year. So now I have two date selections, and in this instance it runs them both independently when it creates a report. But I can use these now as part of my report here. So I would like in this instance say I would like this one is the column 1. So this is current year pounds, right? This one here is current year sales. And now I add like 4 columns, essentially the same variables. I take the quantity again, the same that I had here with the differences. So I say last year pounds and select here now the other period. So select here period 2 and put that in my report. And here basically say column 5. Same thing with the issuing value, with the net sales. Pick that column 7, yeah, and say previous year net sales. So now I have set up columns. This one actually was the current year, this one was the previous year. And let's say, like, just for the sake of arguments, again, I would like to calculate a formula and would like to see the difference between, let's say, current year to previous year. And I would say, like, okay, calculate me now the difference between column 1 minus column 4, which would be give me the difference of current year versus last year. Yeah, we could do that the other way. So I save that again. Hit start. Now the report runs, of course, a little longer, not much, hopefully. And I get again a report out. Now this is my year-to-date comparison. And now I have I got a bad year apparently, but my last year was way higher than this year, but so my growth is not as good. But as you can see, I have my current year pounds, I have my last year pounds, and I have the differences in change from current year by individual customer. So this is actually very basic reporting in CSB and how to create a year-to-date report and work with column managers, sort criteria, selection criteria. And I hope you enjoyed this, and in case you would like to see more of that, let me know. This was just a sample, and see you shortly. Thank you very much, and talk to you soon.